Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 191 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long. We're coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We're very happy to have Dr. Dustin Letts on the podcast today and looking forward to hearing about his personal professional leadership journey. Dustin is a cardiologist with CaroMont Health here in Gaston County. Dustin, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
We will try to keep this on track.
No problem.
We'll try to keep this on track.
Oh, hey, what do you have there?
We have some Jocko Go here.
Oh.
We're working on a Jocko sponsorship. We'll see. Maybe we can hashtag. You know what? We on some of our social media when we release this one, we can link that up to
Blue raspberry and black cherry.
That's right. Yeah, as good as it gets.
Good.
All right. So the first question, Dustin, I'd like to ask is just for our listeners. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Anything you'd like to share, then we'll get into some maybe a little more specifics.
All right. I grew up down in Georgia, in a place called Macon, Georgia, and moved around a little bit with my medical school training. Lived in Charlotte for about 3 years, up to Pittsburgh, and then in 2007, my wife and 3 girls, we moved here, and we've been here ever since. Love Gastonia, been here, and it's unless they chase me out of the hospital, I'll be here when I retire. So it's been a great place. Met some great people. Loved my medical training. I'd go back and do all of it over again. Really enjoyed it. Charlotte was great. I don't want to live there. But the training was outstanding in Pittsburgh. It's very cold, gray, but again, I would do that 100 times over. I really, really enjoyed every step of my medical training. I was very fortunate.
Okay, well, very good. Yeah, and full disclosure, Dustin and I go back a few years. We're involved in a lot of things together, especially F3. Know his family very well. It's girls. Rachel, who you can't be seen on camera probably, and Dustin's youngest are good buddies. So that's just another side note here. So that's why I say we got to keep this on track. We'll get off track here pretty quick. So what inspired you? What led you to medicine and then specifically cardiology?
I really wish I'd looked over these questions. That's
It'll
something
be all right.
I've struggled with because
You're not sure?
Well, there are a lot of reasons I think people go into medicine. I think a lot of people throw in I like to help people, or I like this, or I like that, and that was not good enough when I went to my med school interviews. But that was really, I think I enjoyed the connection with the patients, and so that's I think what led me to cardiology, because originally, and Maddie and I were talking about this the other day, the movie Doc Hollywood, where the guy gets paid with pigs and
Michael
chickens.
J. Fox.
Yeah, and I thought that's Caroline said it last night to Maddie about she was talking about watching some TV show that has a cardiothoracic surgeon that something goes wrong, they have to do something different. I don't remember what. And Caroline said, Dad loved the movie Doc Hollywood. That's who he wanted to be last night.
That's funny.
Because I
I've
really
not heard
enjoyed
that one before.
Yeah. But going through the first 2 years of med school, you're in the classroom, and then the third year it's all clerkships, and you rotate through family practice for 8 weeks, and internal medicine 12 weeks, and OBGYN, psychiatry, pediatrics, family practice, general surgery. So you have a certain number of weeks that you do each one of those, and it's pretty much the same in any med school third-year class. And so you get exposed to everything, and every one of those things I loved. I came home, and I told my wife, Caroline, I said, this is what I want to do. And she'd get all excited, and then I'd start a new clerkship. This is what I want to do. And it went on like that the whole third year. And after probably 2 or 3 times, she just quit listening to me. And
did she not say that probably psychiatry might be the best?
Maybe to herself. I don't know. But then I had some really, really good, we call them attendings or professors in med school and residency that were cardiologists. Dr. Hudson and Dr. Littman were 2 of the big ones, and then Dr. Hadley Wilson, I think he's either retired or about to retire. He was in Charlotte, and he's one of the guys that was a big influence on me getting in the cath lab and being an interventional cardiologist. So I had great mentors. And that's the thing about cardiology is every single day is different. I'm seeing patients in the office. They're different patients with different problems. Or I'm in the hospital. I'm reading ultrasounds of the heart or stress tests or doing procedures or seeing patients that are sicker or not so sick. And so you go from really, really acutely sick patients to hopefully getting them better quickly, which sort of like being a surgeon. You fix a problem and you send them on. Only in cardiology, you get to keep them, right? It's a great relationship with patients.
Really, is it fair to say that you're often able to really improve that quality of life for a lot of those patients?
That's the goal, obviously.
Right.
And I think it's the relationship that I enjoy the most, right? I like the work, but over the years I've figured out being in the office is great. I really like seeing patients and talking to them and trying to figure out what's going on or seeing that they're doing well. I mean, modern medicine is outstanding. The medications we use for treating heart disease, we were talking before the podcast started, my dog's got congestive heart failure. She's on 3 or 4 medicines that I give my patients.
Oh, wow.
And so she's doing okay. But you see the benefit of an impact on a patient, especially, in the cath lab when you got somebody comes in really sick and you can turn them around. That's what I like a lot.
That's good. That's good to hear. I mean, and let's be serious. The only reason that I like hanging out with Dustin is when we go running together, I always like to have a cardiologist with me when we're jogging, just in case something happens. Between Dustin and Mike Tamburello, that's who I always run with, right? So just in case something occurs.
I'm usually a little bit farther behind, so if you do collapse, I'll get there eventually.
It
may be too late.
Yeah, that's not true.
Well,
actually. Well, you know what? As long as Mike will be out front, you'll be behind, right. So I'm covered, right?
Yeah, I think you're okay.
So, looking at this journey through medical school, through where you are today, I often find that what you just described is I don't want to say it's typical, but oftentimes there's a mentor or, something that will help lead someone in a certain direction. I mean, any other leadership lessons? And we'd like to talk about leadership here. We'd like to talk about community here. We'd like to talk about the journey that individuals have taken to get where they are. Looking back at some of those mentors, any big leadership lessons or just personal lessons, anything you can recall, from any of them?
Yeah, the timing's kind of interesting because the guy that I interviewed with before I came to Gaston, I think you remember him, Costa Andrio. Mm-hmm. He was an interventional cardiologist, and he'd been in practice for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years. He's about 6 years older than I am. And walking through the hospital, he knew everybody. He didn't get their name exactly right, but he might call you Sam. He'd get the first letter right. And he knew that you had 3 kids, and he'd ask about your 2 daughters and your son. And it didn't matter if you had a tie on, scrubs on, pushing a mop. He knew them.
Right.
And he was probably 90% of the reason I ended up in Gastonia because I really enjoyed his interaction. I liked how he worked really hard. He expected everybody to work hard. He was, you could tell he was just really into taking care of patients. I'm going to see him on Sunday. Haven't seen him in like 10 years. So he was a big influence on me coming to Gastonia, and I think helped shape my work ethic for better or worse. I may not be the smartest guy in the room, but you're probably not going to outwork me. And so,
is it fair to say he said just one of those people that you watched and saw the example?
Yes.
Yeah, he was setting and said, "Man, maybe it'd be nice if one day I could be that guy."
And he would tell you about it too. He was good at motivating you in a good way, and he'd correct you when you did something wrong, and he was fair and just didn't expect anything out of you that he wouldn't be willing to do twice as much.
Yeah, it would be nice. I think mentoring, looking for mentors. I've got a lot of mentors, and some of them I've never even met, whether it's something I'm reading or listening to, or, well, but yeah, and so but I also think you have to seek that out. You have to be that type of person who's looking for that as well, and
be receptive to it.
Sometimes you might miss it if you're not paying attention.
It was hard to miss his points. He would call you out on things, and he would do it in a way that didn't make you feel bad, but still motivated you. Like, you'd walk away thinking, he likes me and he wants me to do better. That's why he's saying this.
So you're old enough to probably seen some changes in cardiology and medicine in general. What would you say is maybe one or two things that biggest things that you have seen change, or maybe they haven't in cardiology? I'm assuming they have. I mean, we've talked enough that I recall several things that you've talked about over the years. But what's this kind of the state of medicine, and what have you seen change over your career to this point?
Specifically in cardiology, procedural changes have been, we're doing much more complicated procedures through the wrist or through the leg. Years ago, when I was in training, we have this discussion, I had it with the surgeon yesterday morning. He wanted me to look at films that one of my partners was planning on stenting, and he thought they needed bypass surgery. And I looked at it and I said, look, for me, surgery is a better option because I think that's what I was trained with. But nowadays, we're putting stents in places that previously were off limits for stents, and we sent those patients for bypass surgery. Well, if you get asked as a patient, would you like for me to cut open your chest, do bypass surgery, keep you in the hospital for about a week or two, and then you recover over the next 2 to 3 months and you have a scar on your chest and it looks like this, and show them a picture? Or would you rather me go through your wrist and fix this and you go home tomorrow? What are you going to say, right? So
that's a good point.
So I think our equipment is better. We've got things in place now that we can make the procedures safer, where we support the heart when we're doing these complicated procedures. The other big change is open heart surgery for a heart valve problem. We've got a mutual friend, his father had the surgery in Charlotte before we were doing it here, and it was a through-the-leg procedure. He had it on either a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I saw him on Saturday at his grandson's basketball game walking across the basketball court. It's called TAVR, transcatheter aortic valve replacement. So replacing a valve through the leg for your aortic valve when you have aortic stenosis. In the past, that was only surgical. When you became symptomatic, the clock starts, and usually within 3 to 4 years, 50% of those patients are dead. So when you fix the valve, you change their life expectancy. Well, if you're 85 years old, the thought of having open heart surgery is really, really scary. I mean, probably bad for anybody, but when you're that age, the recovery process is going to be tough. So now we do a large percentage of those through the leg. So I think the ability to do more procedures, more complicated procedures, and procedures in the past that were off limits for interventional cardiologists, that's the biggest change that I've seen, along with better medications for treating these patients. So even if we don't get a perfect fix, we've got great medications as a backup that help the patients do well. You throw that along with a little bit of cardiac rehab and exercise, and we've got patients. I've got one guy, he passed away a few years ago, but I met him 15 years ago, had a few heart attacks. I'd go out in the waiting room after the procedure, and there's 25 family members out there. So really nice guy, one kidney. He'd given his kidney to a family member as a younger person. Really weak heart muscle, on blood thinners, had a defibrillator. He went to cardiac rehab 3 times a week for probably 10 years. And when he was about 93 or 94 years old, he thought, well, I've never ridden a motorcycle. Decides he's going to go get on a motorcycle, revs up the motorcycle. It makes his heart go out of rhythm. The defibrillator shocks him, knocks him off the motorcycle, and he decided, well, I've had enough of that. But he was alive and able to get on a motorcycle in his early 90s.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That was a combination of some of the things we did in the cath lab, but most of it was him exercising and taking his meds. So, I mean, I remember his daughter. I would see her every morning. I'd go in 30 minutes before I needed to be at work so I could sit down with her in the intensive care unit and say, this is what Dad did yesterday, this is what we're doing. And she wanted to know, Janet, I'm not going to say her last name, but I remember Janet. And if she hears this, she's going to know I'm talking about her. But she loved her dad. She was there at every appointment. She made sure he exercised, took his medicines, and he passed away probably with a smile on his face with a lot of family members around.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we all need those that support around us. But I think I skipped a big step because I've known you for so long. I have a general idea what a interventional cardiologist is. Probably didn't say that exactly right. So, but I bet we got some listeners who who don't know what that is. So give me maybe the 60-second version of what that part of cardiology is and what are you doing.
So cardiologist is...
I understood everything you've said, but we probably have a lot of
Right.
listeners who don't understand that.
So a cardiologist is a physician trained to take care of patients with heart conditions. A lot of that's coronary disease or congestive heart failure or heart rhythm problems. And an interventional cardiologist is someone who focuses more on the plumbing to the heart. Right?
Gotcha.
So we get called plumbers when we're in the cath lab, and then our electrician partners are electricians, right?
Yeah.
The electrophysiologist. So I don't put in
Shocker.
pacemakers, right? I don't put in pacemakers, but I put in stents and improve the blood flow. So if I can find a clog in the plumbing, it a lot of times helps out the heart and helps the patient feel better. So if you're having a heart attack and you get a stent, that was an interventional cardiologist that put the stent in. Now, you may go back and see your general cardiologist long-term, and they'll take care of you. But then when you start having symptoms or have an abnormal stress test, you come back to the cath lab. That's generally going to be an interventional cardiologist that does that. Or at least if they put the stent in, it's the interventional cardiologist.
All right, very good. So again, I appreciate that. I kind of I take things for granted that, well, I know that, so surely everybody knows that, but that's not real smart. So let's shift gears a little bit, Dustin. First Presbyterian Church, Rotary, Heart Society, Cancer Services. If you go to the hospital, the big, I guess it's the main primary surgery waiting room?
Yeah, the family center.
Family center. So there's a couple names up there. Yours and Caroline's name happens to be up there. So why be involved in the community? Because I know all these things. A couple of them that I've been involved with you along the way as well. How does that play a part in your general mission? Some things you get connected through your career. But one is from a personal experience as well, that you're involved with. So just kind of talk about that if you can. Why get involved in the community? Why not just, go home, enjoy your family, don't worry about what's happening in our community. But I know you're involved in a lot of things.
We have this discussion when we hire cardiologists, because Charlotte's a big draw, especially younger people that want to live in Charlotte. They're not real excited about living in Gastonia because they'd rather live in a big city. So when we interview somebody, we have to balance the benefit of being part of the community with hiring somebody that's a good quality person. And so we've taken the side of hiring somebody that we want and let them decide where they're going to live. I can't help answering this question by saying my wife is a big part of why we live here, right? She and I feel the same way about this, but she doesn't want to live in a community and then me work in a different community. She sees the value in that relationship with people. I go to the grocery store, and it is one of the highlights when a patient sees me and says, "Hey, Dr. Letts, this is what's going on," and my kids stand there and I get to talk to them, and afterwards, I think it makes them happy. But it's, these are the people that I'm around, and they're family members, and that's who I get to take care of. So to me, it's not a choice, right? That's why not? Because when you're asking me that, I'm thinking in my head, why not? Why would somebody want to give up that? Because that's like not even the cherry. That's like the whole thing about why it's so good. You get to do that,
Should we stop the podcast? Should we go ahead and just stop the podcast right there? Okay, that was really good.
Well, I think that's...
Well, the reason I asked that question is because everybody doesn't, my experience, 56 years worth, everybody doesn't feel that way. So I like to hear the why behind your people's and their motivation behind doing things within the community. So many people just go to work, wait for Friday, this weekend, and they go back to work. But you and your family don't do just that, right? You and the reason I know that is just because we're friends, and I have been, I've been to the Heart Society meeting where you're the chair and you're in charge of me, and I've been to Cancer Services whatever that event is called, where you were one of the
Faces of Hope.
Faces of Hope, yeah, where and we see each other at Rotary often, and so
think if you took all that out of your life,
yeah,
how boring would you feel? But that's it's not for everybody. I get that.
Yeah, it's not.
Right. I understand. I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you don't do it, but it's kind of plain. It's like vanilla, right? It's not like black cherry cola or
that's right, blue raspberry.
The blue raspberry.
That's right.
Right. I mean,
that's
especially blue raspberry Go. I mean, they don't make just water tasted.
That's right.
Jocko.
That's correct.
Go. It's got to have a flavor. Right, Rachel. All right.
And that's Rachel. That is your favorite, right, Rachel? The black cherry cola. So, community work professionally. There's something that you can go back to, something you've experienced, something you've been involved with that, I don't know, maybe you're most proud of, or something that made the most impact on you in your community work or your professional career, one or the other?
Yeah, a few things I think at work that I'm happy with. Changing some of the procedures we've done in the hospital. We started doing radial procedures instead of through the leg. That's been a big impact. I bet 80 to 90% of our procedures now are done through the wrist. And years ago, it was the other way around. We weren't doing any through the wrist, and that was a big push that a few of us did. And then secondly, I think hiring good quality cardiologists, because that's who we're handing the torch to. When
Sure.
we slow down, we've got some great guys we've hired from fresh out of training, or a guy from up in Pittsburgh that helped train me, that he probably won't listen to this, and he and I don't agree on a lot of things, but I respect him, and he does an outstanding job with patients. And I think it's the relationship I've got with him that keeps me happy that he's here, because I know that we can disagree on things and listen to each other and move forward. But I think having good people around me, some of that has been the people we've hired, and I feel like if I have to send my patients to one of my partners to do a procedure I don't do, I've got great people I'm sending them to, and I trust them, even if they don't live in Gastonia. So that's probably that. And then outside of work, I think, like we've mentioned, F3, I mean, you and I have been a big part of that for 15 years. And we didn't carry the torch by ourselves, but we certainly made an impact on these guys. And, I'm not out there as much as I'd like to be now, but I certainly put my time in the first 10, 12 years where, if we weren't there, someone else probably would have stepped up, but what if they didn't?
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, F3 is a great group. It stands for Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. It's a leadership group, and we happen to use small workout groups in order to facilitate better leadership. And I'm short, and I'm simplifying a little bit, but Dustin was the first, what we call Nantan, for lack of a better term. It's the first president of the organization, so to speak, back in 2016 or 17.
Oh, probably 16.
Yeah. Wow.
And I didn't mess it up. I may not have fixed anything, but I didn't mess it up.
Yeah, it's still here.
Yeah, it's still here. So I was good enough to keep it going, maybe a little bit better, but I didn't totally fumble it.
Yeah, and we've done some things that I never would have imagined if you had pre-F3. I never would have imagined doing the Mortimer as an example.
Right, and that's the kind of stuff that if you took those things out of your life now, for the last 10 years, how much different would you be than you are right now?
Yeah, and the people I've met, the friends I have through that
right.
I never would have interacted with, otherwise.
Right.
So I appreciate that one, because that is a connection that we have with a lot of people here in our community. What's next for cardiology? What's next for Dustin Letts here in our community? Just looking out for the next few years.
I think for cardiology here, we've got ballpark 18 cardiologists, and probably 12 of them were here when I got here. Okay. And we're all within about 5 years of each other. And so we've got a lot of people that are going to be retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. And so that, to me, that's going to be the biggest change, is how do we transition from a group that has the majority of people in the 55 plus or minus 5 years, 60 plus or minus 5 years, how do we transition to a stable group with new people? And that's going to take a lot of, pulling in new bodies and people. And for me, the transition is sort of a two-step transition out of working. It's leaving the cath lab and just being a general cardiologist, which is, that's been my identity for 20 years. So being a general cardiologist is going to be a big change for me, but I think a good thing, because I get to hand it off to somebody that we've helped pick, and I get to help modify how they work around here. And I get to keep seeing patients, which, I can work in the office, I can work in the hospital, but if you take me out of the cath lab, it's not boring, but it's just a totally different level of excitement.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that's going to be the change, and that's probably somewhere in the next, 2 to 5 years that I'll be stepping out of the cath lab, and that's going to be a tough day, but that's all right.
How far? What, you got 3 years maybe from true empty nesting? You're welcome.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Probably. Yeah, I think.
You're already experiencing it now because your youngest has gone off to college.
Yeah, she's at NC State. Did you
Oh
know
yeah.
that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, she's only at the greatest university in the history of the world.
Yeah. No, she's a very independent person, so I don't know that she will come back home, but I do think she'll probably end up back in Gastonia. So we'll see. She may come knocking on your door for a job at some point.
Hey man, take it right now. So Madeline, you hear that?
Yeah.
I'll send you an online link to our application process. So Dustin, I appreciate you sharing this story, and I also know you well enough to know your modesty, so you're leaving out some of the community stuff. You don't want to bring too much light on yourself, so I do appreciate that. But one thing I forgot is not only you're retiring, you are a Paul Harris Fellow, and I could talk about that for a while too. But we only have 3 hours to finish this recording today. So remember, this podcast is about Gaston County, why good things happening on Gaston County, you, your family, the cardiology group at CaroMont Health. I mean, these are all things, in my opinion, that are reasons Gaston County is great. But besides that, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place? Do you need to answer that?
No, it's actually the guy I was talking about a minute ago, Dr. Schindler, sent me a text. I was thinking about this because when we talked about me coming in for the podcast, I thought I need to do a little bit of homework. So I listened to a few of the podcasts.
So you knew this question was coming?
I knew it was coming, yeah. The JCs and the Hearts to Home, we talked about this the other day. But those, I really enjoyed those podcasts. And I was thinking, okay, what's unique about Gastonia? What do I like about Gastonia? What is my connection with my patients? And something I'm not very good at, I wish I was better, was facial recognition. I'll see patients and I know I should know them, and they talk to me like I know them, but I don't really, I'm not good at that, and I try, but it's their voice. I recognize their voice, and I think that's the unique thing about communities like Gastonia is people use their voice. They speak up when they see something they want to fix. They're willing to speak up and do things for the community. And the flip side is there are people that'll listen, right? I mean, I'm at a hospital with a CEO that I can walk in his office. I can leave here now and walk in his office, and he'll stop what he's doing to listen to me. He cares about the people that are in the hospital. He cares about us being successful, but he also cares about me being a person. And if I've got a problem, he may not be able to fix it, but he's going to do his best to try to work me through that problem. And I think that's the part that I like about my relationship with my patients is their voice. I can recognize their voice. I was walking through the YMCA. I'd been on the treadmill, leaving the YMCA, and I hear this voice as I'm walking out, and I was like, that's so-and-so. And I look around, he's sitting over in a chair talking to his cousin. I was like, I could sneak out of here. He wouldn't even know I'm here. And I thought, I'm not doing that. I went over and talked to him. He's about 65 years old. He'd been playing pickleball and sitting in the chair there, and sat there and talked to him for a little while. So I enjoy that relationship, but I think it's the voices that people have, and they use them, and other people listen. That makes the community special.
Well, that's good. I don't know. That's a very unique. That's very, very, very unique answer to that question.
It took a lot of thought.
Yeah. Did you ask ChatGPT how to answer that question?
No.
So I brought back one question because last episode we got kind of chastised for not having some of these old questions. I'm gonna throw one on you. What's your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Anything with chocolate. Anything with chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said anything but chocolate.
No, sorry.
We were getting ready to stop the recording.
No, my kids know I'm a chocoholic. My one daughter's up in Tennessee. She works for Yelp, and one of the companies they work with is a restaurant that centers all their meals around some type of special dark chocolate that's got some health qualities.
Benefits.
Yeah.
Healthier
benefits. Yeah. So she's already talked to me about next time we're up there, we're going and we're going to spend the day there eating everything they've got. Yeah.
So I'm sure whatever they sell there travels.
That's a good point.
So I'm a big dark chocolate fan.
All right.
Am I not? Yeah, that's
maybe for the third time instead of black cherry or blue raspberry, we'll bring some chocolate.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Let's address this real quick. So through F3, we got exposed to Jocko Willink. And he's one of those guys I mentioned earlier. Probably for me is a mentor that I have met him. I mean, we don't know him, but we have met him at a muster.
Twice.
Muster 17, maybe? I don't remember. It was in Dallas. I don't remember the number. But anyway, so, yeah, and we're just big on his lessons, his leadership, his books, and his podcast. You know, everything about him. My kids might say I take it to the extreme. But, you know, there you go. That's why these are here. I think Dustin came bearing gifts today. So,
can you take it to the extreme, though? I guess there is a dichotomy.
Correct.
You would say sometimes.
Wow, that was good. You worked that in. All right. So speaking of impact, if you could have coffee with one historical person, who would it be and why?
This is another one I thought about walking the dogs, listening to the other podcast, because the one you said a few weeks ago, Abraham Lincoln, was the first one that came to mind. I thought, all right, I can't use that because you said it.
Because I'll chastise you.
Right. And I thought, it's a two-part answer for me. Number one, I don't think I have the brain power to come up with good questions to ask somebody. So I'm going to bring somebody along with me, which is Jocko, because he's like great at asking questions that I wouldn't think of. And the conversation, I'd like to sit and listen to the conversation between him and Eisenhower. That would be
oh wow, that's good.
Phenomenal to see what he sat there and talked to Eisenhower about D-Day and the events leading up to, and to hear a podcast with him and Eisenhower, I think would be
that's
next level stuff. And I would still like to sit down with Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and see what their thoughts are about what we look like now and what their expectations were. But I don't know that I'd come up with many good questions to ask them. So the conversation isn't really what I'd like. I'd like to listen to somebody else's conversation with them. It's sort of like I met a famous football player at a Christmas party one time. He was walking through the hotel, and it was Jerry Rice, and I was awestruck, and I couldn't think of a thing to ask him. And I sat there looking like this complete idiot, just shook his hand and sat there with this big grin on my face, and I had nothing to ask him or say. And that'll be one of the big regrets. So maybe that would be the next thing, is to sit down with Jerry Rice and talk to him about that one idiot that he met at a Christmas party.
I'm sure he remembers.
Probably so.
It was such an impact.
Yes.
Scared him enough that he probably remembers.
Right.
Question I always like to ask. You probably answered this one when you were on with F3, 4 years ago or so. But knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I remember what I answered. I think I remember it was, she's not worth it, right? Don't spend so much time.
Yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe you said that, but yeah.
Yeah. And this is another one of the questions I was thinking is I wouldn't, it's true, not my current wife, but just every
that's a
female
good
before then.
That's a good clarification.
I should have clarified that. Is every female before that, she's not worth it. Why am I spending so much time focusing on that? So what would I tell my 20-year-old self besides that? I don't know. I thought about.
Remember, your 20-something-year-old daughters might be listening to this.
I know. I have to be careful with that. What I thought about when I was walking the dogs, thinking about how I was going to answer this, is I'm going to turn around. What would I tell my 20-year older self than I am right now? What would I ask, like my 75, 76-year-old Dustin Letts? What would I ask him? And I don't think I ever came up with a good question other than, did I do a good job?
You have. Wow.
You hope.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, we've known each other for a long time, and I know more about you than I probably really want to, if I'm honest. But
that's mutual.
I wish I could come back to that. I wish I had brought what I said at your Paul Harris presentation. But anyway, so that was, I'll get there in a minute. So is there anything, before we close this episode out, because that was well said, is there anything you want to make sure you get across or share before we close this episode out?
I'm glad you're doing this podcast. I don't listen to them as often as I should, but I think you make an impact on your family, people you work with. Asking people questions here that make them think, I think, is a motivator for knowing that you got to back up what you said, right? I mean, you ask me if I'm doing something and I say yes, well, next week or next month, if I'm not doing that,
fraud.
Right. I mean, that's a big deal. So I think this is a 191 podcasts. Is that what we are?
Shockingly, yeah, that's surprising. We are working hard to get to 200.
Yeah. So I think when you started this a few years ago, I thought, I don't know that I would.
We never imagined that 5 years later, over 5 years later, we would still be doing it. Yeah.
I don't know that I would.
No idea.
I don't have enough to say or ask, and I always frame that with, the success or failure of something that's going on is if it involves me coming up with a lot of things to talk about, I need to bring some other people. I need to load the boat, right? Get a bunch of other people in there and help me out, because otherwise it's going to be a short podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. And, the main point is there are positive things around Gaston County. I mean, ultimately that is the sole reason we started it. And I just believe that. And I think if you look back at 191 episodes, including this one, it's proof of that there are, positive things. And gosh, there's so many distraction and so many, the messages we hear all the time is about the world. It's not that. And I just don't believe that. That's my personal experience day to day. That's not what I see and experience. And so I'm not going to listen to all these other people who don't know what they're talking about. So before we close this one out, I just real quick, I've known you for a long time. The emotion you just saw, I think that showed I think the phrase I finished that little presentation with was, you're a good soul. Okay. And, our county and our community is better off because of you and, Caroline and your 3 girls. And, we're fortunate to know you and your family. And I'll try to stay on Caroline's good side as much as possible.
Good move.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we did square up after that one big mistake I made, so we won't have to talk about that one. But I do. It takes people like you and your family to make communities better. And what you said earlier, you hope. Well, but you've already done that. So And I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so don't think otherwise. In fact, I think too many people. Our community is full of people who are doing those things, and they're humble enough. That's also why they do things, right? That's why they go and do those things. It's the people that talk about it too much are the ones that they're not really doing it. They're just talking it and not living up to it. So that's right. So I'm going to finish up with my book recommendation and my quote of the week, and I was intentional on both of these. A book I just recently read, we talked about after a little bit on Sunday mornings. We have a leadership study that we do, and we're studying a book called The Daily Stoic this year, but there was a side book that I just finished reading called The Little Book of Stoicism by Jonas, I'll never pronounce this right, Salzgeber? I have no idea. Salzgeber, no idea. It's a really good book. If you want an introduction to Stoicism, I would recommend that. My quote for the week, I think it's the same quote I used probably back 4 years ago when we had the first F3 group on here, but from Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Pay attention to who you hang around with. They're going to impact you greatly, and it also gives us an opportunity to positively impact others. So, I mean, to me, that's what that quote means, and that's kind of a unofficial motto or behind F3 in the group that we're involved with, because we want better leadership, male leadership in our community. So you go hang around people who are doing that, and eventually, if you pay attention, eventually it'll rub off. So that's why I hang around people like Dustin, because it's a good example. We're in a little Shield-Lock group too. Surely, if nobody else listens, surely we have two other people listening.
Thanks for listening, Kurt. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. Other than that, that might be just it. I don't know. Maybe we'll get Jocko to listen to this one, right? We're going to tag him and everything. So yeah, Jocko, we love you. We love you. So do my kids. Right? All right. To our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. And apparently, giving us a good 5-star rating helps the podcast gets noticed, right? Gets noticed? Boy, that's some good grammar. Thanks again to Dustin for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amber Hauser and Rachel Long from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.